Welcome back, everyone. It's been a great conference so far. Let's introduce our next presenter. We have CloudDX Inc. It trades on the OTCQB under the symbol CDXFF and on the TSXV under the symbol CDX, and is on a mission to make healthcare better for everyone. Their connected health remote patient monitoring platform is used by healthcare enterprises and care teams across North America to virtually manage chronic disease, enabling aging in place and deliver hospital quality post-surgical care in the home. Please welcome its CEO, Robert Kaul. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you, Anna.
We are so happy to have you on our conference today and excited to hear about your major announcement as well. So take it away whenever you're ready.
Thanks very much. It's great to be here, everyone. And thank you for your time today. Just a quick note and disclaimer. We will be discussing forward-looking statements today. So please, if you want to take a look at this at some point in our investor presentation, just be aware that we'll be discussing forward-looking statements. So I want to share with you today the story of CloudDX. We've actually been in business now for just about 8 years, founded in 2014, a little small multinational corporation with our headquarters in Toronto, Canada, just outside of Toronto, and our US headquarters in Brooklyn, New York. There's 3 really big differentiators for CloudDX I'm going to be discussing today with everyone. And the first, as Anna alluded to, is major partnerships. CloudDX is unique in our space in the virtual care and telehealth space with 9, actually, as of today, 9 major partnership contracts. And the 2 most important and the 2 largest health technology companies in the world, partners of CloudDX, and that would be Medtronic, a New York Stock Exchange-based company that's the largest medical technology company in the world, and Teledoc Health, which was recently announced as a new CloudDX partner and is the largest telemedicine company in the world. CloudDX is on a major growth tear right now. We've announced 20 contracts so far in 2022. That's a 167% increase on the 12 contracts we announced in 2021. And that growth trajectory continues to accelerate, driven both by the overall growth in remote patient monitoring and telehealth and virtual care, which of course is partly a benefit from all of our experience in the last two or 3 years with the COVID-19 pandemic, but also is on its own trajectory because, as you're about to hear, virtual care and remote patient monitoring is a terrific way to deliver healthcare. It's more efficient, it's more convenient, it's cost effective. Patients really appreciate it, and so do providers, and so do payers. And we'll get into that in just a minute. CloudDX is also one of the most awarded innovation companies in our sector. We've received 17 awards for innovation since we were founded, including major awards where we are, in some cases, unique in the first company to ever achieve, for example, the Bold Epic Innovator Award on the Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize competition. We'll touch on those awards and what they mean as well. But let's really talk about right now the most recent announcement on Friday, the 26th of August, our partnership with Teledoc Health and what that means along with our partnership with Medtronic. CloudDX delivers a specific kind of virtual care, a specific kind of remote patient monitoring, which we're going to describe today. And Teledoc Health, which is the largest telemedicine company in the world, CloudDX as a partner for very specific use cases, acute care, complex chronic care, part of their portfolio that was not being fully addressed by their existing solutions. Likewise, earlier in 2022, Medtronic, which is the largest technology company in the medical space, making technology that's used in hospitals around the world, also chose CloudDX. We're the only company that I know of that has partnership contracts with these 2 giants. Let's talk about Teledoc a little more. Teledoc is active in 175 countries. They have over 5,000 employees, $1 billion in revenue. 51 million people use Teledoc services every year. The main products at Teledoc include their telemedicine service, which is where doctors connect with patients. This is almost always an employee benefit in the American context. Around the world, it's paid for by various public health systems. They also acquired a company called Livongo a couple of years ago, controversially in some ways, but Livongo is the top diabetes management program in the world. And then the third piece of technology we're working with Teledoc on is their solo telehealth platform. Solo is two-way video visits for a lot of strong planning tools and revenue management tools for physicians. And then the final piece is their Teledoc mental health program. Our partnership with Cloud DX and Teledoc is to integrate these technologies into the Cloud DX connected health platform. We address hospital sector, we address patients transitioning from hospital to home after surgery, patients at home with complex chronic illnesses. By integrating Teledoc solutions and Cloud DX, we're able to deliver a best-in-class platform that does more than any other competitor in the world and allows us to access that incredible patient base that Teledoc has already created. Teledoc, of course, is a public company on the New York Stock Exchange. It has over $5 billion market cap. In addition to that announcement, Cloud DX had a very strong second quarter. We've had a very strong 2022. I've already mentioned that we've signed 20 contracts so far, including that Teledoc announcement, 167% increase over our performance in all of 2021. If you annualize that out, it's going to be a very strong year. We're also very proud of the fact that we've had very high patient satisfaction survey scores. 3 different published and announced surveys this year so far show our patient satisfaction numbers in the 89 to 97% range. This is critical because patient satisfaction in many contexts, in Canada, for example, drives business development. It makes us extremely competitive when it comes to closing large provincial and territorial contracts. But in the US context, it's even more important. Patient satisfaction is a critical factor when it comes to reimbursement. Patient satisfaction also drives compliance. That means that our patients use the system as meant, as directed by their care team. That compliance is required in order for reimbursement to happen in the United States. A couple more points just really quickly. We published another peer-reviewed paper, our 8th peer-reviewed paper on our performance. We successfully were audited by Health Canada, and that was a very intensive audit, one of the first of its new MD-IT audits. And we received our 8th granted patent, 7th and 8th granted patent so far in 2022. So now that we sort of laid the groundwork for what we've accomplished recently and given you some really good news, let's talk about what exactly Cloud DX delivers and why it's so powerful and why it's so important. We call our virtual care platform virtual care as a service, or virtual care as a platform in this case on this slide. And so what that reflects is multiple modules that do things for patients in their homes and clinicians in their offices and hospitals. 3 components to the connected health platform. There's a kit of devices, Health Canada licensed, FDA cleared, customized, in some cases actually manufactured by Cloud DX. Those devices go home to the patient. Patient uses those devices in their home. They're very easy to use. They're prepared. They're designed for older folks. And part of our very high patient satisfaction scores is that connected health kit. The clinician portal allows one clinician to monitor hundreds of patients simultaneously. That's what drives the ROI. There's smart software in the background. It's constantly looking for changes in patient behavior, patient symptoms, or patient vital signs, and only flagging those patients that the clinicians need to pay attention to. That means management by exception means patients get the care they need, but providers are only talking to patients that need their help. The final piece is services and integrations. We monitor and manage compliance or adherence to care plan. That's a huge differentiator in service that Cloud DX delivers. We also offer customizations and new features on a very, very aggressive timescale. All of this technology is protected by a broad family of granted and pending patents, both international patents and most importantly, US patents. So the value proposition here is clear. Patients get to go home from hospital sooner. Everybody wants that to happen. That was critical in the pandemic, but it's also critical today. We also are able to prove that we can avoid medication errors and reduce severe pain after surgery. We published a study on that, on those effects that included 905 patients in the British Medical Journal, one of the most prestigious journals in the world. Providers love Cloud DX technology because it makes their jobs more efficient. They can care for more people with the same team. In the Canadian and public health context around the world, that efficiency drives savings in the public system. But in America, that efficiency equates to profit margin. Our American clients are more efficient, but also earn new reimbursements for delivering telehealth and remote patient monitoring under new codes announced in the last 3 to 5 years from CMS and private insurers. So this is not only a profit center, this is a center of new revenue for US providers that work with both post-surgical patients, complex chronic patients, even palliative patients. Those payers, those insurance companies, and Medicare and Medicaid are reaping the benefits of more efficient care. And that's what's driving both the new codes and the insurance reimbursements, but also the overall adoption of telehealth as a service. The market is enormous. 1 in 3 Americans has a chronic condition that's reimbursable with new telehealth codes. Over 60 million people have 2 or more chronic conditions. In the Canadian context, that's 5 million people. Since the pandemic started, millions of surgeries were postponed or canceled. Those surgeries all now have to be made up. That means hospital capacities are being pushed to the limit. Getting patients out of hospital sooner frees up those beds. And surgical complications kill 1.5 million people every year. We have the proven ability to reduce those complications after surgeries. Strange. From the point of view of going to market, our partnerships are driving our growth, both in Canada and the United States. In the Canadian context, we're standard of care across the country. We're the largest and most successful provider of remote patient monitoring in Canada. That includes hospitals in multiple provinces and provincial, territorial, and municipal government contracts that cover, through our Patient First program, hundreds of thousands of patients. Available patients, not patients enrolled yet, but available patients. But our partnerships with Teledoc and Medtronic, and additional partnerships with groups like the Lung Foundation, which uses Cloud DX technology for COPD patients, one of the largest home care companies in Canada, CBI Health, and Equitable Life, which has a unique program with us to deliver virtual care to patients with critical illness insurance. All of these partnerships have been signed in the last 6 months. All of these partnerships are slowly beginning to generate revenue across our continuum. But the US market, of course, is orders of magnitude larger than the Canadian market. In the US context, we're working with hospitals, including hospitals in Illinois and Oregon and other hospitals in our pipeline, to deliver that efficiency and that post-surgical care to reduce patient length of stay and reduce days in hospital. But most importantly, we use our Patient First platform, which is a unique set of tools we've developed that allows and drives the ability for our clinicians to onboard patients efficiently, to grow our business through primary care clinics across the United States. There are over 20,000 primary care clinics we've identified that are capable of using Cloud DX to generate additional revenue for their older patients on Medicare, Medicaid, and also through private insurance. The 3 largest we've enrolled in the last 6 months are listed here. And in the example of primary care of Cape Cod, we're seeing on average 10 patients a week being onboarded into that program. Our whole goal in 2022 and into 2023 now is to scale up these programs because of the access to available patients that we now have. Patients available is an important metric for us. What this refers to is not patients on our system yet, but patients that are qualified to be on our system under our existing contracts and partnerships. Prior to 2022, we were able to access through our Patient First programs approximately 31,000 patients. Then, when we launched our initial Patient First project, which is again a proprietary, bespoke set of tools and access to databases that allow us to match chronic disease management patients with physicians, we gained access to over 1 million patients. With our Medtronic partnership in Canada, we gained access to another 1 million. And now with our Teledoc Health partnership, that number is expanding exponentially. Our process starts with patients available, then moves to onboarding clinics and clinicians and training them, and then we begin enrolling patients. We earn SaaS revenue per patient per month for each patient enrolled on 2 to 3 year contracts. The whole Cloud DX company begins to reach cash flow positive at approximately 10,000 patients. Obviously a drop in the bucket out of the universe we can now address. As we grow and we get to the point where we're in the 50 to 100,000 patient range, Cloud DX becomes a $90 million a year business, approximately. Now I want to touch on innovation. Cloud DX, as I mentioned earlier, is one of the most awarded companies for innovation in our space. The awards that you see on this page are nice to brag about. Of course, it's always nice to be recognized, but we bring it up in the context of a presentation like this because many of these awards, not all of them, but many of them come with non-dilutive R&D funding. The largest pool of funding we've accessed in this world is through the X Prize Foundation and the University of California in San Diego as a co-winner of the Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize. If you're not familiar, X Prizes are global innovation competitions managed by the X Prize Foundation based in Los Angeles that offer enormous multi-million-dollar cash prizes in order to solve very, very tough challenges. The Tricorder X Prize, if you can imagine, was inspired by Star Trek TV shows. And the whole point of the Tricorder X Prize was to create a working Star Trek medical tricorder, which really meant an autonomous platform capable of diagnosing diseases without access to a physician or the internet. We won the Bold Epic Innovator Award at the Tricorder X Prize, which came with a giant foam check for $100,000 in cash, but more importantly came with access to $5 million in non-dilutive grant funding to commercialize the technologies we invented for that competition. That funding has paid for a large-scale clinical study in Mozambique in Africa for our technology called cough analysis, technology that we've invented and patented that's capable of identifying diseases based on the sound of a person coughing and the artificial intelligence analysis of those cough sounds. We presented on this subject in November of last year at the 52nd Annual Global Conference on Lung Health. And in that presentation, the lead investigator in Africa, Dr. Kelso, stated that our technology is 91% accurate at diagnosing tuberculosis simply by the sound of a person coughing. Tuberculosis is one of the largest and most deadly diseases in the world. Over 2 billion people around the world currently are infected with tuberculosis. And if the COVID-19 pandemic had not come along, we would all be panicking about tuberculosis because for the first time since the 70s, tuberculosis is on the rise. 10 million people every year get sick from tuberculosis, and 1.5 million people every year die. That's approximately a COVID-19 pandemic every single year, just based on tuberculosis alone. Other awards on this page include an Edison Award, which is a very prestigious award for innovation, and awards from Canadian sources of grant funding that also drive our innovation. Investors are often curious as to what our capital structure looks like. CloudDX has 72 million shares outstanding. About 35% of the company are owned by insiders, the founders, the co-founders of the company, and the board of directors. That's a very high percentage, and you see a lot of insider buying at CloudDX, which is something we're very proud of. So bringing this together now on the subject of why we're special and what CloudDX does differently, I want to bring it back for a moment to the innovations that we're talking about. In addition to the cough analysis software that I just described, CloudDX has two other technologies very close to commercialization, all born out of that Tricorder X Prize experience that we went through as winners of the Qualcomm Tricorder X Prize. The first is a wrist-based device. It looks like a blood pressure cuff, but is actually the first device of its kind in the world to not only measure blood pressure, but also respiration rate. It's a combination vital sign monitor that will be added to our connected health kits starting in 2023. Obviously now at the end, as we continue to go through the COVID pandemic respiration rate is an important vital sign that clinicians care about, especially for the millions of people around the world that currently have long COVID syndrome. And then the second device we're bringing to market is a wearable technology. We call it Vitality. It's a device, a platform of technologies that monitors all the main vital signs continuously, including blood pressure, and will be a key part of transitional care and getting folks out of the hospital and safely into the home. Vitality has already been picked up and slated to be deployed in a 20,000 patient clinical study launching this year to prove the efficacy of continuous monitoring for remote patients in their homes after surgeries. This innovation drives non-dilutive cash to the company, as well as, of course, making us future-proof, giving our clients and our customers comfort that we will be bringing the new technologies to them. They are not going to be replacing CloudDX with some other company 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, because we, in fact, are on the cutting edge of these new innovations in virtual care. The second differentiator that's critical is patient satisfaction. We've touched on this earlier. Patient satisfaction not only drives compliance, it also drives reimbursement. In the US context, if patients do not use the Cloud DX Connected Health Kit at least 16 days out of 30, doctors do not get reimbursed. Proving to clinicians that we have extremely high 90+% patient satisfaction means they're going to get paid. That differentiator is critical for our growth on the US clinic side. And then, of course, we have to touch again on our partnership. Being partners with both the largest med tech company in the world, Medtronic, and the largest telehealth company in the world, Teledoc, and planning global distribution through these partners is what's going to drive Cloud DX growth in the next 6 to 8 quarters. Both of these companies do business in over 100 countries around the world. Both of them are on the cutting edge of this transition to virtual care. Both of them chose Cloud DX in the face of competition from any number of different competitors because of the differentiators on this page, because of our patient satisfaction, because of our innovation, and because of our ability to service customers quickly and efficiently. So why would I ask you to invest in Cloud DX? Why do investors consider us a good bet? I think that there's really these reasons on the page. We're meeting real needs. These are solutions to problems that absolutely need solving for enormous populations and available markets around the world. As noted, 1 in 3 adults has a chronic illness. It's less known that 1 in 6 adults has a neurological illness. We are treating those, including through a contract we have with the University of Waterloo in Canada. 29% of surgeries have serious complications. Almost all of us one day will experience a surgery. You have a 1 in 3 chance of having serious complication after that surgery. We are addressing that problem today. We have the published peer-reviewed studies to prove that our technology is superior. That peer review, that publication track record is a huge driver and credibility builder for our clinical and hospital customers. Our user satisfaction scores are probably as high as they can get. Getting 97% of older people to agree on anything is a challenge in our current day and age. We're very proud of the fact that we have such high patient satisfaction scores. We have access across the Canadian market to all of the provincial governments, all of the municipal governments. We're a verified vendor, and that improves procurement in the Canadian context. Down on our sales and marketing in the United States. And that's reflected in our growth, 20 new contracts so far this year, just in the first half, and on track for an even stronger second half of the year so far. And then, I'll just wrap up by saying that being partners with both Teledoc Health and Medtronic truly positions Cloud DX for growth in the next little while. So I want to thank everyone for joining us for this presentation today. And I'm now prepared to answer questions. So please go ahead, Anna, if there's any questions from the audience.
Great job, Robert. Yes, we've got quite a few questions. Terry Beecher asks, your Teledoc announcement and other partnerships are encouraging. So how long do you think it'll take to see revenue from these big partnerships?
That's a great question. And, I think the reality is that in our world, a sales cycle is anywhere from 4 months to 8 months, depending on the potential client. That said, I think that some of the projects that we launched earlier in 2022 with Medtronic, especially, we can expect to see some benefits from those projects relatively quickly now, coming up to the second half of the year. With the Teledoc announcement just happening on Friday, I think investors should be looking for news on Teledoc deployments sometime in the next 2 to 3 quarters.
Great. Domenico Camarota says, your technology seems to be very innovative. So how does it compare to competitors' technologies out there?
What's interesting about being in the medical device space and the medical technology space is that all of us together are very heavily regulated, FDA cleared, Health Canada licensed, ISO certified. These regulations not only protect patients and customers, they also protect investors because it means extra eyeballs on Cloud DX. And it means that our technology and our quality management meets extremely high standards. But even saying that, Cloud DX technology is on the cutting edge. And I'll give you an example, going back to what I mentioned earlier with our cough analysis technology. So this technology is patented. We control the patents in the United States for cough analysis by a sound analysis. And what's really exciting about that is, first of all, the positive results from our clinical studies, showing again a 91% ability to recognize tuberculosis, active tuberculosis. But also there's been a recent signal in the market as to what that technology might be worth. There is another company in the world that has a technology that's superficially similar to our cough analysis technology. They're a company in Australia called ResApp. Now, if you look up ResApp, R-E-S-A-P-P, you'll note that a few months ago, ResApp announced they were being acquired by Pfizer for $75 million. All that ResApp does is cough analysis. They don't have very much revenue, not much more than Cloud DX, if that. Nevertheless, Pfizer considers that technology worth $75 million. I think we can all agree that kind of recognition of asset value is not currently in our market cap. But as our technology moves into the field, that's something that we can potentially look forward to. So this is an example of how Cloud DX technology is keeping pace, or is not, if not at the very cutting edge of what's available.
Great. Gary Zwetchkenbaum asks, have any of these big partners expressed interest in acquiring Cloud DX?
That's an excellent question. I have no announcements I can make on that front at this point whatsoever. However, both Medtronic and Teledoc Health have made many, many acquisitions in the past. It's typical of companies like that to look at acquiring a company like Cloud DX when we reach a certain size and address a certain number of patients. So I would imagine that over the coming quarters, as our patient enrollment numbers begin to climb, if and when those conversations would begin, it would begin around that trajectory and that velocity. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on in the coming quarters.
Great. Scott Sanchez with Sycamore Capital asks, what catalysts will affect the stock going forward? And how does the company plan to raise capital in order to fund future growth?
That's a great question. I think the catalysts to look for are continued announcements of contracts and the size of those contracts, continued announcements from the point of view of partnerships, and especially the development of enrollments under those partnerships of patients. These are things that we've seen drive our share price in the past. I think I've already mentioned that Cloud DX is on a trajectory to reach cash flow positive in the next few quarters. As our patient enrollment numbers cross the sort of 10 to 12,000 mark, then we're looking at being into an EBITDA positive situation. Between here and there, we may choose to raise some additional growth capital in a private placement situation. We've announced private placements in the past. Typically what we've announced is convertible debt type private placements because it gives investors, especially in the current market, an opportunity to earn both an interest rate for being patient and then potentially an attractive conversion price if and when they choose to convert their debenture. So no announcements on that today, but as we get closer and closer to cash flow positive, our need for capital, of course, decreases. And I would say we're probably coming to the end of our need to raise capital in the next few quarters.
Great. A few questions from Reggie Sanchez, also with Sycamore Capital. Who are the emerging competitors in the industry in which you operate?
We have two types of competitors that we face both in Canada and the United States. The first are divisions of large public companies. So there's a company in Canada called TELUS, which is actually a telephone company that also owns a number of electronic medical records. We compete with TELUS and have beaten TELUS over and over and over again. We're very competitive in that particular vertical. There's another company called Vivify Health. Vivify is a division of Optum Healthcare, which is a giant U.S. health insurance company. Vivify Health seems to be pulling back a little bit from the space. It doesn't look like Optum is investing in the growth of telemedicine, except for their own in-house use. So we are actually seeing customers now shifting from Vivify to Cloud DX. Our technology has higher satisfaction scores than most of our competitors. So what we face again in the competitive landscape is this terrific combination of being a very, very sticky solution. Once a hospital system embeds connected health for multiple use cases across the hospital, we become the preferred vendor. We become, it becomes expensive and complicated to remove us and replace us. As long as we provide very high patient satisfaction and continue to deliver innovation ahead of our competition, we really become embedded. And that moat is a very powerful differentiator for Cloud DX. There's also a number of small companies out there. The remote patient monitoring world is continually evolving. Where we gain a massive edge is our partnerships with Medtronic and Teledoc Health. As the only RPM company that has those partnerships, it opens virtually every door and gives us that credibility and weight to compete against some of the largest competitors, while also proving to our customers that we're superior even to the small innovative ones. So we have the best of both worlds, being small and innovative ourselves, but also really having the most powerful big brothers out there.
And a follow-up question, what have you found to be the strongest trade catalysts for your company? Also, what catalysts will affect the stock going forward?
Yeah, again, back to, catalyzing growth. There's really three things to watch out for, I think, in the market. One is the continued expansion of use cases. When we launched Cloud DX, we launched around really one specific use case, which was chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which is the most expensive illness in the world. It actually drives the most costs. That and congestive heart failure together drive the highest costs in any healthcare system. Nearly 80% of some healthcare costs are driven by complex chronic illness in elderly people. But since that time, we've expanded to 8 use cases across the hospital and clinic universe. We now address post-surgical use cases, pulmonary and cardiac rehab use cases, mental health use cases. We address palliative care use cases. Hospitals find more and more reasons to use Cloud DX Connected Health. That is absolutely driving growth. Inside each of our contracts, they're growing quickly. And then, of course, the second point is continued reimbursement. Every year, it seems, CMS and the Medicare Medicaid system reimburses more aspects of remote care because it's more efficient. It drives savings and it improves patient compliance and satisfaction. Continued reimbursement and additional reimbursement means more and more opportunities for our customers and clinicians to both improve their bottom lines and improve their top lines. And then the third point is bringing these innovations to market. I've mentioned 3 new innovations in this call that are driving growth for Cloud DX. Our cough analysis software, our wearable pulse wave device, which is our cardiac monitor and respiration monitor, and our wearable vitality device. Each of those devices is at the last stages of clinical validation for launch in mid-2023 or earlier. Each one will drive additional revenues and make Cloud DX technology more irresistible and more competitive. So those announcements of commercialization and new contracts around those technologies only make us more competitive and will only grow our business.
Fantastic. Rachel Mason wants to know if you have any plans on acquiring any clinics.
That's a great question. Cloud DX really works as sort of the infrastructure between clinicians and patients. We're kind of like the Intel Inside, to coin a phrase to steal from a large company out there. We're the glue that glues the clinicians monitoring patients remotely with patients in their homes, with moving data all the way into the electronic medical record, doing that seamlessly, securely, in an encrypted way that's privacy compliant and extremely easy for all parties to use. We don't intend to necessarily acquire clinics, at least not at this stage. What we do hope to do is power those clinics into the future and to grow that footprint through that vendor relationship at this point. Acquiring clinics might be something we grow into after we've achieved EBITDA positive.
Cam Alvarez asks, what's the biggest advantage of your platform over your largest competitors? And talk a little bit about who your competitors are.
So going back to that conversation we just had a minute ago, our differentiators come back to being some of the most innovative technologies in the space, having the highest patient satisfaction, and having those partnerships that opens those doors. I'll give you a perfect example with Medtronic. Medtronic is a company that delivers hospital-based technology. So if you go to hospital to have surgery, if you go to hospital for virtually any reason, at some point, some Medtronic technology is liable to touch you, whether it's an implant, a pacemaker, an artificial hip, an artificial knee, a spinal surgery. Medtronic has a wide base. As the largest supplier of this technology, they do that all over the world. But they want to be more relevant to the patient outside of that narrow in the operating theater experience. So what Medtronic does with Cloud DX is Medtronic offers Cloud DX technology to monitor the patient before their surgery, to create a baseline for clinicians to know what that patient's baseline scores are. And then go home with Cloud DX technology to make sure there's no complications from that surgery and to make sure that patient's satisfied. That satisfaction, again, drives compliance, it drives reimbursement, but it also means that patients and hospitals are more satisfied with Medtronic. This is an internal feedback loop that helps really drive our business with Medtronic, And we have a very full pipeline of hospitals across North America we're addressing through that program. So we compete with the large telehealth companies, the divisions of Philips, the division of Honeywell. I mentioned Vivify Health already, and a number of smaller companies. I can think of Health Recovery Solutions as a name. I can think of Optimize Health. I can think of Life 365. These are companies that only deliver a narrow type of remote patient monitoring, typically for chronic illness, not in the post-surgical, acute, complex care realm that we deal with. Our competitive edge in published peer-reviewed research means that the largest customers, the largest hospital systems, have confidence that Cloud DX technology is going to be effective in their use case because we've published papers in prestigious journals that say that. And that's a critical differentiator that very few other companies, if any, can actually share.
Thank you for that. Last question with Andrea Cataneo. Great presentation, Andrea says. Without naming names, do you have any prospective acquisitions in your pipeline? And if so, do you have a specific strategy in mind?
Our strategy for acquisition, as you would imagine with a company like ours, is both a really great technological marriage. So in other words, a company that potentially could meet a need that we're currently not filling ourselves, that we can do more efficiently by acquiring rather than developing in-house. And that's something, of course, that as a public company, we're always interested in. And then, of course, on a financial aspect, we would look for an accretive acquisition, a company that is already profitable, that adds bottom line to Cloud DX. So I don't have anything to announce today, of course, but as a public company and as a company that's growing very, very quickly in a space that's growing very, very quickly, we definitely believe that consolidation is coming. We believe that Cloud DX will have the opportunity to potentially acquire some terrific companies. I just don't have anything to share specifically yet.
That's okay. Just come back on in the future and give us those updates when you can. And great presentation, Robert.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everybody, for your time. Again, our ticker on the OTCQB is CDXFF, and our ticker on the Toronto Venture Exchange is CDX.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again here soon.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, everyone, stay with us. We'll be back in just a few moments.